Hello, everyone. I hope you are doing great today. Good morning, and welcome to this webinar named Get ISO 9001 Certification Quickly. We are glad that you are here today with us. My name is Jaime, and I want to tell you that SPC Consulting Group is a Mexican firm that has been working with small, medium, and large companies as part of the metalworking, plastics, and electronic industries, among others. And we have been assisting organizations in their management system certification needs for over 19 years. We provide solutions, cost savings, and process improvements. Please visit our products portfolio for more information. Well, now let me introduce Daniel. He's going to be our speaker today. He's a chemical engineer, and he has been in the automotive industry for more than 20 years, playing different roles. And he has certificated more than 12 companies in different management systems. Please be comfortable to start this webinar. Today, we're going to share some guidelines to implement ISO 9001 in the shortest time. First of all, Daniel, welcome to this webinar. Good morning. I hope you are doing well. And I would like to ask you, what are the necessary steps to get this? I mean, a fast ISO 9001 certification. And please remember that at this point, you will have the presentation control.
Okay, good morning, Jaime, and thank you everyone for being here today. I'm very happy that you're here. Okay, let's answer Jaime's question, and let's say that for the steps to get the ISO 9001 certification can be count with five. So you see over there in the slide. First, we need to know and interpret the standard. Then we need to implement the standard. Then audit the quality management system, contact a certification body, and get familiar with the certification process. But let's talk a little bit regarding every one of these items. Okay, first one is to know and interpret the standard. So first, let's know about a little bit about the standard, and let's start by saying why we need to implement this standard. Okay, the ISO 9001 2015, it's an international standard, an international standard for an quality management system in every company in the world. No problem. So that's why we need to implement it, because if as being an international standard, it is going to be valid all around the world. So with this, we are certifying that our company could be world class, and that we have or we achieve a competitiveness of the company in the market. Also, as being an international standard, the ISO 9001 is a global quality benchmark for quality all around the world. So finally, what we need to get with this standard as we implement it in the company is to satisfy our customers and to ensure that we are producing or giving any service of good quality. Okay? Now, what do we need in order to start the implementation? We need to know about 7 principles that the quality management system needs to have. Okay. First one is, as we said, the customer focus. Okay. The customer focus is that we are going to try to satisfy the customers. And for this, we need to have the top management to have the leadership in the implementation of the quality management system. So the top management is the one or the main responsible for the implementation of the system. And with this, the top management it's going to try to engage the people in this, because the top management is not going to do everything. So we need the people in the company to be engaged and to be committed in order to start the implementation. And as we are talking this, everyone in the company needs to work in their departments and to think that department, it's like a process. So that's why we need to have the process approach or approach to processes. With this, and are we are as we are working in the process, we are going to see if we are doing good or not by setting some targets in our process. And with these targets, are we as we are measuring this, so we are going to improve and make the things to go better. So this principle of improvement is where it takes place. And with that, we are going to take some decisions, and these decisions are going to be based on objective evidence. So evidence-based decision, it's another principle. as we are working with these principles in the quality management system, we improve the relationship management at the company. Okay, so let's continue. Now, for the successful implementation of a QMS, we have three phases, as we are looking here in the slide. Phase one is create the document structure. Then we have implementation and validation. And phase three is finally the certification of our quality management system by a certification body. So let's start with phase one. And phase one has to do with the creation of all the document structure of the quality management system. And the quality management system is made of regulatory requirements, which are the requirements in the standard. So those are the requirements that we need to comply with. And also there are legal and industry requirements that we need to comply in order to be working in the company. And also we have interested parties. Interested parties is different people or different segments of people that are interested in our company to be successful. So that's why we need to determine which are those interested parties and try to satisfy their expectations. And also there are corporate behaviors, especially in companies that are in a big size and that they say that they have different companies in different parts of the world, maybe.
Hey, Daniel,
Yes.
I remember that the ISO 9001 standard has a figure to illustrate a QMS with the scientific approach. Could you please explain it?
Yes, Jaime. Yeah, I think you're referring to this diagram. Well, this is the diagram that appears over there in the standard, but this diagram is based in this one. This one is the PDCA cycle. The PDCA cycle is a logical cycle to do anything that we want to do. It starts with planification, then do, then check, and finally act. And it's a cycle. So first we need to plan what we are going to do, and then let's do it. So while we are doing it, we need to check if what we did was fine according to the targets that we just set in the planification stage. So if something goes wrong or whatever, we need to act. That means to take action in order to correct what we think that it was not as planned. Okay, so this PDCA cycle, we can put it here. And now let me talk about this PDCA cycle and the adequation of the standard. The standard is formed by 10 chapters, but chapter number 4 to chapter number 10 are the only ones that are auditable. So these chapters are the ones that are adequated to the PDCA plan. You see over there in the top left, the organization and the context, which is chapter number 4 or clause number 4. So that context is what how the company is formed. And then we have the leadership in the middle, in the center of the diagram. That leadership is the top management that it's the one responsible for the implementation of the quality management system. Then we have the planification over there on the left. And then we have that's the planning stage. And then we have support and operations, chapter 7 and 8, which are the do part of the PDCA cycle. And then we have performance evaluation, that would be the check in the PDCA cycle, and then the improvement, that it's to take corrective actions in order to correct whatever that went wrong during the implementation. So that's why the PDCA cycle, it's adequated to the standard, or the other way around. The standards adequated to that PDCA cycle. Now, as you can see here in the diagram, let me go back a little bit. We have customer requirements in the left, and then we put those customer requirements getting in the quality management system in the square that has the circle inside. So that square, it's a process, and that process receives some customer requirements, and then we process those. And what the results are quality management system results, and the results is products and services of good quality, and as a consequence the customer satisfaction. Sorry. Okay, having in mind this process approach, what does it allow us to have? Okay, with this process approach point of view, we may understand and trying to get a consistency in meeting the requirements of that process. So also, we may consider the process in terms of added value. This means that we are adding some value to what we are processing, and then we give that results maybe to the final customer or to an internal customer. With that, we may achieve effective process performance, and then we can improve processes based on evaluating data and information. Remember that we need to set some objectives or targets, and as we are measuring those targets and we are getting them, we can evaluate that data and try to do corrective actions if required. Okay, so let's continue. Also, what we need in the to know about the interpretation of the quality management system or the standard is that we need to have a think based on risks that we need to think before we do everything. So these risks are going to be evaluated, or we're going to make a risk analysis in order to evaluate the effects of these risks. We can we can say that there are two main factors in making the risk analysis. First one, it's the effect of the risk and how severe is going to be the effect. Could be a high severity or a low severity, and also how probable is that the risk may happen. So that could be a high probability or a low probability. And then with that, by weighing these kinds of factors, we may prioritize which risk we are going to start working on in the beginning. So we may have some preventive actions before we establish or we implement the quality management system. Okay, so let's continue. Okay, as we talked before, there are some interested parties that are interested in the good success of the quality management system implementation. So we need to determine which are the relevant interested parties regarding our company and regarding the quality management system. These interested parties can be, for instance, the owners of the company or the stockholders. Also can be the employees, which are the ones that are working in the system. Also, the customers, which are the main interested party because they need to get good quality products or services at a competitive price. And also the suppliers. We need the suppliers to get good raw materials or good services. And also there might be some government agencies that they are interested because, for instance, we have environmental agencies that with some requirements, but that we need to comply. And we need to determine what the expectations and requirements of those interested parties are in order to fulfill them. Okay. So let's start with the interpretation now. Now we know the basement, or we know the foundations of the quality management system. Now we know the principles. Now let's go chapter by chapter in the interpretation of the ISO 9001. The first three chapters are only of reference, and we have the objective and field of action, the scope of the ISO of the standard. As we know, it's an international standard and may be adequate to any company in the world. Also, it has a chapter of normative references and another chapter of terms and definitions. These are only just to read them and try to understand a little bit the standard. Then, with that, we're going to start with this chapter here, with this chart. Jaime, could you help me with this?
Sure, great, Daniel. Now in the screen, we can see the ISO 9001 structure showing the clauses from the standard, the 7 chapters that you just mentioned before. So, Daniel, how can an organization assure that they are complying with the ISO 9001 standard requirements? I mean, at least to have the minimum information to pass a certification audit. So, in a practical way, could you please help us to determine the minimal requirements clause by clause?
Yes, we can go through all the these chapters from 4 to 10, and let's give a little explanation of this and what we need to comply with in order, or what the evidence would be in order to be sure that we are compliant with the standards requirements. Okay, clause by clause. Let's start with clause number 4 or chapter number 4, which is the context of the organization. And then we have some sub-chapters: understanding the organization and its context, understanding the needs and expectation of interested parties, determining the scope of the quality management system, and the quality management system and its processes. So with this, with all this clause, with all clause 4, what we are doing here is trying to understand how we are formed and how what we are and what we are not, or what do we have and what we need to get in order to be successful. So the best way to do it is try to make a SWOT analysis. SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. This the strengths and weaknesses, there are some factors that are internal of our company, so we know how the strengths that we have, and also we may know the weaknesses that we have and that we need to work with in order to uh, change into to another strength. So, and opportunities and threats, they are external factors. Opportunities, those are the ones that we need to take advantage of in order to get a successful point in the quality management system. For instance, trying to conquer a new market or trying to develop a new product or something. And a threat, it's something that it's that comes from the market or that comes from the environment. Remember that 4 years ago, we have a pandemic situation. So that was a big threat for all companies in the world. Okay. Also, as we just talked before, we need to have an analysis regarding the interested parties' expectations and try to fulfill those requirements. Also, make try to define the scope of the company and try to define the scope of the quality management system. The scope for could be, for instance, if we are a company that we are molding plastic. So the scope would be that the company, it's the objective is the design and develop in the fabrication of plastic parts for the home appliances industries, for instance. That would be like a scope, just an example. Also, we can have design, or maybe we just receive some drawings from the company, from our customers, and we just make the process of the fabrication of that. We define the exact scope where it starts and where it finished up to the customer satisfaction. Okay. Then we need to identify the inputs and outputs of every department in the company from the point of view of that every department, it's a process in the company. Okay. So that's why we can comply, or with this information, that's the evidence we need to have in order to demonstrate that we are complying with this chapter number 4. Okay. Okay, let me know if we are going fine, but please type a 4 over there in the Q&A chat, so I may know that we're going fine. Okay, thank you. Now let's continue with chapter number 5, leadership. Okay, leadership, as we talked before, is regarding the top management is the main responsible for the quality management system implementation. In the past version of the ISO, the version of 2008, it's they used to name a management representative that was the main responsibility and authority for the quality management system implementation. Now in this version, in the 2015 version, now that responsibility relies directly on the top management. So there are no any more management representatives. The top management is the one that is responsible for that. So he needs to determine a quality policy, and they need to define the roles, responsibilities, and authorities for all the people. That's where the third principle, the people of engagement, comes in. So we need to uh, the top management needs to get that management commitment and then try to set a quality policy that goes regarding or that goes toward the customer satisfaction, the customer focus approach, and also defines the roles and responsibilities of each process owner. That this the record or the evidence for this could be relying on the job descriptions in the company. Okay, that's where we may put all the roles, responsibilities, and authorities for every person in the company. So let's continue. Let's go to planification, which is the chapter number 6. And planning, it's about actions to address risk, as we were talking before, risk and opportunities, quality objectives setting and planning to achieve all those objectives. And also we need to be prepared in every implementation. We need to be prepared for any change that may happen. And believe me, a lot of changes may happen while we are planning in how to implement the standard. So we need to be prepared, or to be prepared to react accordingly to those changes. So in risk and opportunity analysis, we can have, as we said in the beginning, determine the impact and the probability that some risk may attack our processes. And also, if there is any opportunity, we need to take advantage of them. Also, we set objectives, and the objectives for that is we set the objectives depending on the process that we are working, some indicators just to see that all those processes are going good, key process indicators, and ensure compliance with them. Also, we need to provide the necessary resources in order to comply with those targets that we are setting. Okay, then the senior management must determine the resources and the authorization to get those resources, and we need to have, if there is any change, we need to have it properly documented so all the people involved in that situation may be aware that there is a change, and when that change is going to be taking place. Okay, this is number 6. If we're going fine up to here and you're following me, please type a number 6 over there in the chat session, in the questions session chat. Okay, number 7, chapter number 7 is support, is resources. So right now, up to here, we have already defined the context. We have already set the leadership management, or the top management responsibility. Now we have plan. So we need to get resources on this. All resources that the quality management system may need. And this is resources, human resources, the infrastructure, the building, the equipment, the fabrication processes, and all of that, awareness, communication, and documented information. A good Remember that the number one phase for the implementation was to create the documental structure of the quality management system. So here, 7.5 tell us how to document the information that we need and how to control that information, because it's really important that we may control all that information. So here we define the need of people and how we can measure that people that are working by rotation, by the head count, by the progress of a release or something. Define the necessary resources as the quotes, business plan, the budgets, the plans, the KPIs, the objectives that we are working, the work environment where we are working, and also environmental issues if they are required. And also we need to ensure the right measurement systems. In 7.1.5, it talks about the calibration of the measurement systems, and also of all the measurement devices, all the measurement equipment that we have. And then also we need to set the people's competence, the right competence of the people that it's going to be processing or handling all the equipment that we have. So we need to get or to define the competence, and also we need to set the training programs that we need in order to get that competence for our people. Also, it tells about communication. And remember, communication, it's a very important thing in every relation, in everything. So we need to say in an obvious way what we are going to communicate, when we are going to communicate, and to whom we are going to communicate that information, and the frequency that we are going to have to communicate that. Okay, and also we need to maintain documented information. Starting this chapter, the standard says a lot of times that we need to maintain documented information, because with that we may demonstrate that we are compliant with the standards requirements. Okay, so that's why it says to keep that documented information. And also we need to control that information. So right now we have everything. We have up to here the context, the leadership, the planning, and all the resources that we may need. So what is next? What is next is the do in the PDCA cycle. So we need to work, with all what we have already have. So we need to start working. And number 8 chapter is operations. So in here this chapter is the longest one in the standard. So we have different subchapters as operational planning and control, requirements for products and services, design and development of products and services, control of externally provided processes, products and services, production and service provision, release of products and services, and control of non-conforming outputs. And the evidence that we need here in order to comply, well, we cannot explain all this chapter in a short explanation, but let me tell you the most important things. We need to perform planning analysis of effective product launch. So if we are going to run some processes for product or services, we need to have an effective product launch for this. We need to determine also the requirements of the products and the services. For this thing, we need to hear about the voice of the customer and to set exactly what they are going to need. If we are going to design some products, if we don't have design in our scope, maybe we just receive drawings from the customer or a service that it's already set in all the components that it has. So we can only define and develop the process with how we are going to produce those products or to offer those services. Also, we have to define and establish controls for all the processes. And this is based on the risk analysis that we did in the beginning. And also ensure that the non-conforming product, because we know that we are working and maybe some things may not happen as we were planning in the beginning. So maybe we have some non-conforming product. So we have to be prepared to control that non-conforming product, to put it in a quarantine area, and what is going to be the disposition for that non-conforming product. So that's the do and the PDCA cycle. This is up to here in chapter number 8. So if we are going fine, just type an 8 over there in the questions chat. Okay, let's continue. Now, in the PDCA cycle, this is the check, the evaluation and performance. Let's check and evaluate the performance of the quality management system. And here we have the monitoring, measurement, analysis, and evaluation. Also, there are chapters for internal audits and management review. And here, this 9.2 and 9.3 are very important elements of the quality management system. And for our point of view and for the point of view of external auditors, because they are going to check this with how do you say, with a magnificent lens or something, because it's a very important element of any quality management system. There are 3 elements that are really important. These 2, internal audits, management review, and as we are going to see in chapter 10, are the corrective actions. So here we do a self-assessment by an internal audit in how the performance and how well the quality management system is going. So that's why we need to train some internal auditors and do some internal audits. Also, all what we may find in the internal audits, or what we discover if we have some non-conformances or something regarding to the standard that we are not complying with, and we need to put all this and try to do a management review meeting. So with the internal audits and the management review meeting, we are going to analyzing objective evidence based in fact and data in order to have the right decisions for corrective actions. And corrective actions, those are that is the third element that it's really important. So let's go to chapter 10, which is the last one. It is the one that it's improvement, and this is the act and the PDCA cycle. So improvement has to do with with nonconformity and corrective actions, and continual improvement. General is that we have to improve and try to define how we are doing it and how we can do it better. Also, nonconformity, if we find some nonconformances in the internal audit, or we have customer complaints, or we have everything that it's not according to our targets, to our plan that we made in the beginning. So we need to define some corrective actions for that based on objective evidence, based in fact and data. And also we need to have a good analysis of root cause for the root cause of the problem and try to determine corrective actions, permanent corrective actions, and try to fix some documentation if we need to fix that documentation in order to include a new failure mode or something. And so with that, we're going to be improving the system. Improving is not only what the people may suggest, improving is also correct, but it's wrong to make it better. And then we have continual improvement. With all of that, we may have continual improvement. So with this, we finish with the chapter number 4 to chapter 10 in order to try to give a little interpretation of all the standard.
Right. Daniel, could you please provide some tips for a correct QMS implementation?
Yes, Jaime. Let's go now to phase two, okay? And phase two, just following the steps that we saw in the very beginning of the webinar. Now we have the implementation of the standard. How we implement the standard, we can make it by staff training according to the requirements of the standard, planning the implementation, and of course, implement the standard, okay? So let's say first about the training that we may need in the company. We say that minimum we need a sensibilization about the standard, about the ISO 9001 in the 2015 version. Then also we need to have an interpretation. Why we need to have an interpretation? Remember that we were talking about that the standard, it's an international standard. It has a very general concepts, and this is why it is uh, can be applicable, may apply it and can be adequate to any company in the world. So that's why we need to interpret in order to all those concepts we can apply it to our process depending on the complexity of the process and depending on the size of the company. So that's why we need to have that training and interpretation of the standard. This could be a training session for all the standards, all the chapters, going in detail and what they really mean and how we can adequate those to our company. Also, as we said, we need to check the performance of the quality management system once it's already implemented, and we need a training in internal auditors, and we need a train for an audit leader that is going to guide all the internal auditors team in order to have a successful internal audits as I mean an internal audits program, so we can have that. And also, as we remember, we need to have a risk analysis, so we need a training over there in the risk management. There is a standard for this risk management, that it's the ISO 31000 in the 2018 version. So this first is the training. Then we may continue with implementation planning. So right now that we have all the structure, the documental structure regarding the system, we need to implement it, but we need to plan how we are going to implement it. So how we are going to set all those documents over there in the production process or in the service provision areas, so that we may have a successful implementation. So here we need to understand and using control documentation only, and also we need to have the awareness and commitment to achieve the implementation. Awareness is really important in this. We need to make the people know that how important is what they are going to be doing, but also we need to let them know what could be the consequence if they don't do it that way. So we need to comply with the ISO standard, so that we may have a world-class system in the company. So we need to be aware of doing the right things, and we need to be aware of the consequence of not doing it the right way. Okay, and here at this implementation planning stage is where we can raise our hands if we have some doubts, and if we are wondering on how we are going to implement something. So this is the part where we need to ask. So we need to solve all those doubts immediately. Okay. Now, we need to implement the quality management system. So by implementing it after the planning that we made, so This planification is going to tell us the steps by steps in our specific process. So this needs to be defined by the company, and then we need to monitor all the processes to ensure compliance with customer requirements and to say that we are implementing in a good way the quality management system. So after that, and we have some time just to get the system to get a little bit mature and everyone takes its place in its role and responsibility in the system, we can start thinking about auditing the quality management system by ourselves to make internal audits. Okay, with this internal audits, we're going to define internal auditors and audit leader for the company, try to make a program during the year for to audit all processes in the quality management system and try to make an agenda. We uh, we do an opening meeting. We start the auditing. We send people to audit all those areas, and then we may go back to results and present those results in the management review meeting in order to take the right decisions to correct anything that we found that we I mean any finding that we could get. Okay, so we need to check the level of implementation with internal audits, and we need to take the decisions in the management review meeting in order to get this. Once we have this and we have been completing all parts of the quality management system, we can start thinking and contacting a certification body. A certification body is an external registrar regarding the quality management system. So they have the capacity or the authority to determine if a company it's according to us I mean can be granted with a certification on its quality management system. So for this they name internal or I mean an external auditor, a third party auditor that is going to be visiting us and make an external audit, a third party audit, an impartial audit, just to see how well our quality management system is. And the certification body, according to a recommendation of the external auditor, is going to grant us or not a certificate regarding our quality management system. Okay, so that certificate, it's a written guarantee that we have a quality management system in place and that we may be considered as a world class and that we have an international standard already in our processes. Okay, so now we need to get familiar with the certification process, how the certification process is, how long it lasts, and things like that. So let's start a little explanation regarding this. First, once we have contacted the certification body and they have named an external auditor, we are going to set some dates and regarding the size of our company and yeah, pretty much regarding the size of our company, some auditor days are set. So maybe, for instance, for a company made of 100 people, 100 employees, you can have 4 or 5 auditor days. So in those 4 days or 5 days, we're going to have an on-site audit. Once we have been success in that on-site audit, a certificate is going to be granted, but maybe some non-conformances can be found during the audit. So for that, we need to correct all those non-conformances, try to define the right corrective actions for those, trying to get the evidence, send them, or call again the external auditor. So maybe we're going to need a complementary audit if it's required. Maybe we just found some minor non-conformances that can be evidence with the corrective actions and send that evidence to the external auditor and he may close that with no visit required. So with that, we're going to have a certificate granted. So the external auditor is going to recommend our company with the certification body to be granted a certificate compliant with the standard. So once we get the certificate, we are going to be that certificate is going to be valid for 3 years. And the first year, then we're going to have a surveillance audit. That's the surveillance one audit. This surveillance audit, it's not the same audit as the certification one. In the certification one, the external auditor checks all processes and all departments of the quality management system. And then in surveillance one, he checks only some samples of that. But remember that I told you that there are three elements that are really important in the quality management system. Those elements are uh, internal audits, the management review, and corrective action. So these three elements are going to be checked in every surveillance audit. So they need to see if they found some non-conforming performances, that they are still corrected and all preventive actions already implemented. So they check this, and also they pick another department like purchasing or maintenance, but not all the processes. Then after that surveillance number one, we have another surveillance, the surveillance two in the second year, which is going to be pretty much the same thing as the surveillance number one, only a sampling of the whole the processes, and again, the internal audits, the management review, and the corrective actions elements. So after this surveillance two, we are going to be um, getting to the third year, which is the last year for the validation or the yeah the how to say the validity of the certificate. And then we get to the third year, and in the third year, if we want to continue being certified in the standard, we need to have a recertification audit. So at this time, we are going to have again a whole audit in all our processes, in all departments, in order to determine that we are still complying with the standard. So this is how we the certification stages for any certification in any company in the world. Okay, so now let's talk about a little bit about some audit tips. And these are audit tips. These audit tips are going to be helpful to in tell us how to behave while the audit is being play is taking place in the company. When we have the external auditor over there those 4 or 5 days with us. So first, we need to know about the documentation. We need to know exactly where are the documentation that external auditor may request, where that information or where that documentation is located, the types of documents that exist, and know how to locate those documents in a quick way. I mean, this means to have all documentation on hand in order for not to waste time. Also, we need to have only documentation that it's valid documentation, that it's actual one, the one that it's right now good to run our processes. So we need to destroy all outdated or uncontrolled documentation or obsolete documentation. We need to check all workplaces, all desks or drawers, everything, just to see that there are no any documentation that could affect or that it's outdated or obsolete. Okay. Also, another tip is fill out all records. If we have records to demonstrate that we are following our check-ins and all of that, we need to make sure that all blanks, all rooms over there in that record are already completed. The auditor does not want to see that something is missing some information. That means that maybe we are setting something in order to be checked, but we didn't check it, especially if there is a record that is releasing product to the customer or that it's releasing a service to the customer. So that means that we didn't have the prevention or the precaution to check what we are releasing, and maybe that could be a major nonconformance because we are sending product not already released correctly to the customer. And so we need to fill out all records. If there's a blank space that it's not, I mean, that does not need to be fulfilled, we need to put there that it's not applicable, a not applicable note, so that the external auditor may know that it is not being checked in that specific product or specific service. And also, we need to let's say that we need to have fun at the time that we are being audited. I know that, that could be a little bit difficult, but let's forget about the nerves. Let's forget about whatever. I mean, don't be nervous. So the auditors are people like us, and they're only doing their job. And the main The main final objective of an external auditor is to develop us as a good company in order to improve our quality system. So that if he's going to, or if she's going to mark any nonconformance, that's an opportunity to correct those things. So we need to do it. I mean, there is no problem. We don't need to be perfect in order to be certified. We can have some problems. The the problem would be that we didn't do anything to correct those problems. So if you have some problems, we need to correct them. That's exactly the quality management system for, to correct things and to improve them. Okay? So don't get nervous if you get any nonconformance. So everything can be corrected. And then some other tips. The auditor is going to make you some questions in order to try to see how the system is going. So if he makes, or if she makes a question, just answer the question in a precise form. Don't give extra information. Don't make a long story. Don't try to embellishment the response or something. So just answer that and that's it. Maybe the external auditor is going to be quiet a little bit, and that quietness, it's on purpose, because when he's quiet, you may get feel pressure or nervous, and then you're going to say something. So don't say anything. If you just answer the question, don't say anything and wait for the external auditor to make another question. Okay. And then maintain proper industrial housekeeping. This is really important. And if an auditor notices that our work areas are clean and tidy, he's going to have a good perception on how we're running our processes. And believe me, this is true. I have been in audits where the auditor, what he asked first is, let me use the bathroom. And he goes to the bathroom, and if the bathroom is not ordered or tidy, he's going to, because I know this because one auditor told me once, okay, if I see the bathroom that it's not tidy or clean, now I can have, now I can see how you're going to run the processes. I mean, he's saying, if you cannot do something that is very easy, I have to wait how you're running your processes. So maybe they have that perception. So try to keep everything clean and tidy. So all the auditors may have a good perception, a good first impression of the company. Okay. So these are the other tips. And let's go now to another tips. Jaime, could you help me?
Yes, Daniel. Well, until now, you already talked about the standard structure, also share important tips to get the certification. But the important question, how could an organization get ISO 9001 certification quickly, Daniel?
Yes, well, we need to have all what we have talked about, all the what we have seen in the webinar. But let's finish with this quick tips for the certification. Okay, this is a way to make a summary of the whole webinar. First, over there we have it in this diagram. The number one, it's prioritize alignment. Then streamline documentation, focus on key requirements, leverage external support, train effectively, simulate audits, efficient management review, embrace technology, and seek certification body feedback. So this is a summary of the webinar. Let's talk a little bit of one of the each one of each tips here. First is prioritize alignment. This is a strategic fit. Leverage any existing quality management system. If we are working and we don't have or we don't have an education of the standard to our system, we'll still have a quality management system. We need it in order to be working. So we need to make first a gap analysis or a diagnostic in order to see how close or how far we are to the standard. So this is the first tip. Second tip is to streamline the documentation. All those essential records and the template use and the documentation that we have to see how adequate or adequate it can be to the standard. Then the third one is focus on key requirements that the standard we're asking and talking about. This means the process approach, the risk-based approach, and the customer satisfactions. Those are the three key elements to have in mind while we are implementing the standard. Also, in number four, we have leverage external support. That means that if we need some consultant that may help us in this, and if we can do it, if we have that that thing to help us, let's do it. Consultants and also contact certification bodies. Also, they may help us in trying to see how we can implement. Then we need to have an effective training. So a targeted training and continuous learning. They say that quality starts with training and ends with training. So the training, it's a never-ending situation in any company. Then we need to check our quality management system. We need to do self-assessment. So we may have internal audits, train our internal auditors, or trying to get an external audit to do a mock audit. A mock audit, referring to the certification audit. So we can have an external auditor so they can check us before the certification audit. Also, we need to have remember that just after the internal audits, we need to get all that information and all the inputs that we need for the management review so the good decisions can be taken. Then we need to embrace technology. If there are some technologies over there in the market regarding a quality management system administration, and also some digital tools that we may take advantage of in order to make the things easier for our company. And then with all of this, as we talked just a few minutes ago, we need to seek the certification body feedback and try to have a pre-assessment if it's required, and to have an open communication with them in order to have a successful certification audit. And with this, I think we can finish with the webinar. So let's go now to the Q&A, to questions and answer session. Jaime, could you help me with this?
Sure. Thanks, Daniel, for sharing this relevant and important information to get ISO 9001 certification quickly. Remember that at this point, I will have back the presentation control. So before we start with the questions, please let us know what you think about this webinar, and also if you are interested in different topics, either in management systems or productivity, so we can plan different spaces like this for you. Now, let's go to the Q&A session to answer all your questions. I'm going to read the questions, and I would appreciate if you, Daniel, answer them.
Yes, Jaime, with no problem.
Sure. The first question is from Aaron. He's asking, how much does ISO 9001 certification cost, and how long is the certificate valid?
Okay, as we just saw in the certification process over there on the diagram and the timeline that we saw, the certification lasts for 3 years. So once you get the certification audit, you're going to be granted with a certificate that it's from imagine that it's from today, October 22nd, 2024 to October 21st, 2027. Okay, that's 3 years, and you're going to have certification audits or surveillance audit in the first year and the second year. If you want to be continue being certified, so you need to have a recertification in 2027. Okay, that's the duration of the certificate, and the cost for that for the 3 years depends on the auditor days. An auditor day could be priced on 1,000 to 1,300,000. I mean, $1,300, 1,000 to $1,300. So if you are 100 size employees company, maybe you need 5 days or 4 days. So multiply four for the price of the auditor day. Let's say about 4,000 to 5,000, $6,000 in the first audit. There are also some other fees that are management fees that the certification body may charge you due to the granting of the certificate and things like that. And the second audit is going to be the same. So if they are only 2 days, so maybe $2,000 are going to be costing. So I think for a company of 100 employees, the 3 years could cost from $10,000 to $12,000, depending on the certification body.
Right, Daniel. The next question says, how can you help us in our company to implement ISO 9001?
Well, we get some experts, some senior consultants regarding the implementation of the quality management system, and we can help them with the experience. Also, Well, as being a Mexican company, and if you have, for instance, in some of the companies over there in the United States, there are too many Latin employees, so we can help them in because we handle both. I mean, we are bilingual. We can speak English and we can speak Spanish with no problem. So I think we have an advantage regarding that for this kind of companies. So that's how we can help.
Right, Daniel. The next question says, how to retain key personnel for the audits?
Oh, okay, okay. I have seen in my experience in the companies that I have been working with in the certification, I have seen that some people it's a key employee, it's a key person in order to have that. So maybe they are being trained as we are implementing the standard. I mean, if we are working on the quality management system implementation. Some people are key in order to have a good audit and to have a good how say a good follow up on the quality management system implementation all the year, not only because of the audit, because of the benefits that we get by implementing the system, and that person, it's a key person, so we need to retain them, and we need to have something special so that we can keep that personnel and try to make more personnel like them. Remember that this is a system, the quality management system, it's a system, and the system. One of the system characteristics is that no matter who is going to be working in the system, the documentation let them know what to do. That's why the system exists for. Okay, so we need to keep. But anyway, we need to keep some key key employees that could be helpful in order to follow up with the system and the system improvement. Okay.
Right, Daniel. The next question says, what benefits could you offer in our organization being a Mexican company?
Well, as we just said before, being a Mexican company, we are bilingual, so we can speak Spanish, we can speak English with no problem, and we can implement if there's any case that some of the employees can be Latin and they don't handle English or whatever. Maybe they feel more comfortable speaking Spanish. So with that, there's no problem. That could be one of the benefits by hiring a consultant like us. So we will be happy to help you if that is the case. That's one of the benefits. We know everything, and we know, and also there are some companies in the United States, or there are some companies in the North American market, not only United States, but also Canada, that they have a company over there in the States or a company in Canada, and also they have a company here in Mexico. They open a company here, so we can help in standardizing all documentation between companies, between, I mean, like corporate documents or whatever. We can help them in trying to understand what they need or the requirements they have over there in North America, and try to adequate them over there in the companies here in Mexico. This is like a standardization, like a corporate standardization of the quality systems.
Right, Daniel. The next question says, do you have any recommendations for a risk assessment tool? What is the most common tool for ISO 9001 companies?
Well, the most common things is to work in too many documents and to work in too many procedures. Try to make a procedure for everything. That is not necessary. You need to understand and interpret in the good way the standard, so that you can define which are the documents or the minimum required documents that you need. Also, don't try to make a record for everything. You don't need to record everything. You need to record only the key indicators. You need to record what you are going to release to the customer. So try to maintain it as simple as you can in order to comply with the standard and comply with the customer requirements. Those are the ones of the main things that you may be overwhelmed in trying to implement the quality management system. Those are the ones. Also, maybe you said, okay, we need to make a lot of records, and maybe we need to have records of the past. Don't do that. you're not how to say hurry to get that certification, don't do that. The auditors, the all auditors know about that. So just try to make it, try to do the right records, and try to have the ones that you know that you just fill it in the time that it was already filled. Okay.
Okay, the next question says, how long does it take to implement ISO 9001 in a company?
Okay, for a company, well, it depends on the gap analysis that we were talking before. I mean, if you already have a system, we need to determine how far or how close you are to the standard, and with that, we may have an idea of how long what it's going to take to have the final certification. Other thing depends on the complexity of your process, also the size of your company. A big company is going to require more time than a small company. But anyway, small companies can be sometimes a little bit difficult because people may do three or four different responsibilities because of the size of the company. No matter the size of the company, no matter how small, no matter how big, all of them can be certified with no problem. So, depending on the number of employees, depending on the complexity of the processes, and depending on the first diagnostic that can be done, we may say that we require from 6 to 12 months, more or less. So a big company would be good to have a 12 months implementation, and a small company maybe 6 months. But it depends on too many things, not only the size, but it's good to have diagnostic in the beginning in order to determine that time. But let's say that in general, from 6 to 12 months.
Okay, we are just going to answer one more question because we are over time. So, who is the training intended for?
Excuse me?
Who is the training intended for?
Okay. This training, it's intended for to, I mean, to know about the standard, to let you know how quick and how easy it could be to have the certification in your company. And this is the main intention of this webinar, to let you know. No, so with this, you may determine if you need how do you say, a training that goes in a deeper way in the standard, or how you can do it in order to certificate your company. That's the intention of this webinar.
Great, Daniel, thank you. Well, we
Thank
already
you.
answered most of the questions in the chat. If you may have any further question, please send us an email at info@spc-us.com, and we'll answer them as soon as possible. Well, once again, thank you for joining us today, and have a great and wonderful day. Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you, Jaime. Thanks everyone for attending this webinar.